All right, what is up, everyone, and welcome back to episode 3 of Tripp's Take. We're gonna be going over finding the beauty in the unexpected. I know for me, especially growing up, I've always been terrified of the idea of the unknown. Like it would freeze me, and I would plan out my life in a way that I wouldn't have to worry about it, I guess, if that makes sense, but like I ultimately would, and it would only make life harder for me, and I would only get more anxious and more stressed out. And like the unknown was just a very scary idea for me, and now it's something that almost gets me excited. And I think a lot of that's just from a shift of perspective, and a lot of the way that the world works and functions is based off of perspective. I mean, and it's the kind of idea that like when you wake up in the morning and if you sit there and you say, okay, yeah, today's gonna be terrible. Yeah, today's gonna be terrible. But if you sit there and you wake up and you say, you know what, today's gonna be the best day of my life, it very easily could be the best day of your life. And it's all just how you decide to view it. And I think the way that you decide to capture a moment really just will change whether or not you're gonna find something you're expecting to. And I think a big part of the reason that I want to talk about this in episode 3 is because there's a lot that I was not expecting when coming here to college that I found. I have quite literally found the best human beings on the face of the planet to surround myself with. And I brag about it a lot, but I have the best friends on the entire face of the planet. I was not expecting to find the sense of family in college that I found when I came here. And it's weird because the way that a lot of my friendships developed, I wasn't necessarily as close with the people, or they weren't necessarily like formed under conventional terms. My very first friend coming into school here, his name's Tyler, and we met over Zoom because it was COVID and there was no other way for us to meet. And it was like just so odd that like what we put into our friendship was what we got out of it. Like we decided, you know what, like you're pretty cool, like I guess we'll just become like homies, whatever. I mean, actually he started making fun of me on Zoom. That's how we first became friends, was because he decided to pick on me. And then one of the girls I live with, one of my best friends now, AMC, she had like said something snappy back at him, and the three of us became like the three amigos right off the bat coming in. And it's weird the ability that relationships and people have to like develop, because like they really are like that, like whatever that cheesy saying is about like people being like onions and like peeling back layers, like that's really what it's like. Because like when you first meet someone, you get this initial like first perception of them, and I think not every relationship needs to be this deep and heavy connection where you connect on a deep level. And I think there's a lot of relationships that are held that are at face value. But I think every relationship, even if it is at face value, can reach that level of being deep and a good connection. It just depends on if you want that. And I don't think every relationship needs to be like that. I don't think every relationship should be like that. But I think everyone needs one or two of those connections in their life, especially when it comes to that. Like there are a lot of people that I'm very open with, and they see every side of me. In the last episode, I talked about how the vlogs are one side of who I am as a person, but they aren't the only side. And there's a lot of people who see that at all sides of me. I'm overly emotional. I cry a lot. When I get stressed, I bawl. I'm a nerd. I like to watch Area 51 documentaries, and I like to color in trolls coloring books. And a lot of my friends see all of these sides of me, and they get to see this, I guess, intellectual, I don't even know what I call this intellectual. Like, this isn't even like, I'm not saying anything like magical or like insane, but they get to see another side of me outside of me just goofing around in front of a camera and being silly and dancing around and everything else. And those are my deeper relationships, my deeper friendships. I also have the relationships where it's not that I'm hiding that side from them, it's just there's no need to go deeper. And that sounds almost like that, I feel like that can be taken really poorly, but I don't think every interaction with someone doesn't have to be deep. I think if you make every interaction with someone deep and heavy, you lose just like the silly, lighthearted moments of life. You lose a beauty of it all. And it's never anyone's job to dive deeper into these connections. And I think when they happen naturally, I think that's when it's the best. It definitely is the best when it happens naturally. My best friend here, Dimitri, I met last year, and me and him were not really friends to start off with. We didn't really get along. It was just kind of that. But I remember there was one night where I was just stressed out and going through it, and he didn't need to support me. He didn't need to be there for me. He didn't need to show up, but he was. And from that night forward, me and him have become best friends. It's insane to me because he had initially only seen my goofy, silly side of when we were in a group of people. And then all of a sudden now the kid knows more about me than most people. It's weird because I know I love to learn about people. I love to see how other people think. And I think a part of that comes back to, like, I love to see how I think and how I interpret things and how I read situations and how it's different from my eyes compared to someone else's. And I think there's this warm and just like an almost rewarding feeling. And I don't know if I call it a reward, but there's just this like full heart emotion that I get when I know that I've had a deep connection with someone. And I know that there's someone who just entered my life who means something to me, who I was not anticipating to enter my life. Because college is a weird environment. It's odd because you come in, and in high school you're with these kids like 8 hours a day all the time, and a lot of the times like you knew them growing up, you knew them from middle school, you if they're not complete strangers, and yeah, you'll get a couple strangers here and there, but like you guys are from the same area. Like they're not complete strangers. But when you come to school, especially out of state, like I came here, I didn't know anyone, and you're basically thrown in like the lion's den. Like you're expected to just go and make these friendships, otherwise it's like you're not gonna have them. If you don't go out and actively make these relationships with people, like you're gonna sit in your room by yourself. And I think one of the best ways for people to connect is through their flaws and through their hardships. Because everyone's been through something. Everyone has something that's not, like, I'm not perfect at all in the slightest bit. I have plenty of flaws. But, and everyone's flaws and hardships are completely different. But there's this shared feeling and emotions of understanding that you're not perfect, but almost that makes you perfect because you're not, like, everything's not working. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not perfect, but like you're perfect because you're not perfect, you know? I hope that delivered correctly. I have notes. I'm just, these are probably not the order I should have written these in, but regardless, I think being able to connect through the feelings of knowing that you've been through something and so has someone else, and being able to empathize with other people and have compassion even if you don't have that exact same experience, that's what connects people, and that's what brings people together. And I think that's what I learned very early on in my college experience. I've already said it once, and I'll say it again. I have the best friends on the entire face of the planet. Here, not here. I surround myself with the best people, and I love every single person that I'm surrounded with and that I'm friends with. And it's weird because up until college, like I said before, like I was with the same people from the same area. And I wasn't necessarily always with the same people, but I was with people from the same state, people from the same general area. And even though I came into high school and I didn't know anyone coming into high school, a lot of other people already knew each other coming into high school. Coming into college, you're thrown into this environment where you know no one, and it's completely up to you to make those friends. And I think coming here and being able to grow a family, and then that's what I would call it. I would call it a family around me here. I could not be more grateful because I was not anticipating having such meaningful and strong relationships here. I was shy in high school. I was really shy growing up. I didn't really come out of my shell until probably my junior year. And when I came to college, I expected to go back into that shell, if I'm being honest. I think me taking that step outside of my comfort zone in order to initiate these connections with people, but not only keep preserving them through like late night conversations and showing up for one another and encouraging one another. I know I'm friends with a lot of the soccer team here, and last year they showed up to almost all of my home lacrosse games. I played twice, and I ended up getting hurt, and even when I was hurt, they still came. They came for me, they came for Maria, and granted they're friends with both of us. Maria plays a lot. Maria's phenomenal. Maria's an insane lacrosse player. But even then, they don't know lacrosse. They don't even really like watching it, but they knew it meant something to us, and they still showed up. I think dedicating yourself to preserving these connections after you initiate them and making sure that they're just as strong as they were when you first connected. Because it's not one initial connection that builds friendships and strong relationships. It's the continuation of them. And it's as easy as just checking in on each other or just simply going to exist in silence with them. Like if you guys are emotionally drained, or not even emotionally drained, if you guys are socially drained and you just don't want to have to like talk, just go put on a movie and just go sit in silence. Go sit in silence on your phones. Go do your own work in the same room. And if there's a problem, like talk about it. Because I believe communication solves everything. 110% communication solves everything. I think being able to say, hey, there's a problem and I care about you, and this problem and you are two separate things. You talk about it. Even then, if it doesn't resolve itself, it's all out there and it's all dealt with. And I think my perspective on this especially changed a lot coming into college, because in high school, you see the people for 8 hours, you leave, and even then, if you don't want to hang out with someone in a certain environment, like, you don't have to. You can go do something else that you're interested in. And again, that's the same thing here, but you're with these people 24/7. Like, they live down the hall from you. They live in the same room as you. They live all around you. You're gonna see them on campus. So if there's a problem with the people that you have these connections with, you need to address it and you need to talk about it. And I think me being surrounded by people who can all just have intelligent conversations when their issues arise, or not even issues, but when just like little bumps in the road happen, like, is amazing. And again, high school's weird because you're interacting with these people for 8 hours, but when you come to college, like, when you go back to your room, you can just sit in your room. If you wanted to live in complete solitude outside of whatever your living situation is, you could. I remember packing my stuff up, and I was praying that Maria would make all of our friends for us. I was praying that by some grace of God, I don't know, somehow I would just be able to make friends through her, and I would be saved, and I wouldn't have to actually worry about like reaching out to people and making friends. It's weird because people who hear me say that now and who know me now probably think that that's like insane, and they think that like the idea of me being shy and me being closed off is just foreign. But it's crazy how me stepping outside of my comfort zone for 1 week, that first week of college, that completely changed who I am. And it just made me more confident and more sure of myself, and it taught me how to make friends with people, and it taught me how to communicate with people and create a sense of family where my family wasn't. My support system back home, my family, like, they don't follow you here. Like I said before, like, you don't have to. If I wanted to live in complete solitude here, I could. If I never wanted to call home, I don't need to. Like, when you come to school and you completely start over on a blank slate, I did not know what to expect. My assumption was that I was going to come here and I was going to be lonely, and that I was not going to have a lot of substantial friends around me, and that I was just going to kind of put myself into my shy little box and call it a day. I'm so happy that I'm wrong, because I have the best people and the best family around me. But that was because I decided to step outside of my comfort zone and push myself to make those connections. And a lot of that was because of my friend Tyler. Tyler is this, like, energetic ball of sunshine who just doesn't shut up and loves to just like meet new people. Again, like we became friends over Zoom. The first month, maybe month and a half of school last year was on Zoom. And we moved in. I remember seeing him. I remember seeing him in person for the first time. We were both moving our stuff in, and I had like just gotten out of my car, and he saw me. He was like, "Kaylin," and he came up and gave me a big hug. But I remember him introducing me to the few people that he already met. And from there, I kind of was like, okay, like this is how he's doing this. And he's just kind of going up and just being his friendly self. Because I would always be my friendly self with people once I got close with them. But it took me a little bit of warming up before I started to just become myself, because I would just shut down and get shy and quiet. And again, my friends now probably think that I'm lying and that I'm insane, because I don't shut up now. I love talking to people. I love making new friends. I'm just proud of how much I've grown and that I found that aspect of myself here. And that I've really just grown into myself. And it's funny because one of my really good friends from high school, Haley, who I'm still really, really good friends with now. Honestly, Haley, you're probably not watching this, but if you are, shout out to you. She's literally the coolest person you will ever meet. She is like sweet. She's insanely smart, like 10 out of 10 human being. But I remember meeting her in high school, and I did not talk. She tried to start a conversation with me, like in English, about like what books I had read in high school or whatever. Like I think like she was reading like To Kill a Mockingbird or something, and she was like, "Have you ever read it?" And I like looked at her like she had 5 heads, and I was like, "Yeah." Like, and like not like yeah because like I was like, what do you mean? Like, why are you asking that? Like I was like, yeah, because I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to respond. And it's funny because like she still like bring that up now, because she's like, I was not the girl that she met freshman year in high school. And it's crazy because like for me to be so intimidated by someone, let alone her, is just crazy to me. I didn't really go out of my way to talk or get to know people unless they reached out to me first growing up. I regret it, honestly. Again, like I said, my favorite thing now is to really just get to know people. I love to see what gets people going and what inspires other people and how other people's minds work. And that was something that I didn't really know I loved to do until recently, and until I stepped outside of my comfort zone and I started to find things I didn't expect to find in myself. Even my junior and senior year, my friend group that I had, all of us lived very, very far from each other, and we didn't really get a lot of time to hang out. And then COVID happened, and we really didn't get a lot of time to hang out. But even then, we started FaceTiming, and I started, like I said before, dedicating myself to those friendships. And I surrounded myself with a lot of really good people. I think another thing that really just forced me to take that first step out of my comfort zone was starting my YouTube channel, because I'd always wanted to do it. And I'd always, especially like in middle school, like I would sit down and I would make like I feel like most people did this. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but like I would make those little like videos of like me like doing my makeup and doing my hair, and I would edit it on like my iPad and like blah 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 whatever. And I never posted them because I was like what, like 12. Even then I told myself when I got to high school I was going to like pursue it, because by that time I started actually getting into like the art of editing, not just like chopping up pieces and throwing it together. And I remember posting my first YouTube video. It was January 2nd, I believe, of my junior year of high school. And I remember being completely terrified. And it wasn't even anything like to make fun of. It was one of those like little like montage video things to like music, like a summary of like my 2018 year. And I remember being terrified to post that. And I remember being terrified to like promote it on my Instagram, because I was like, I'm proud of it and I want people to see it, but I don't want to get made fun of for it. It's weird because YouTube's such an odd and I guess unused form of social media by a lot of people. So it was something that I really just had to be extra confident in. And I remember going into my final season with my club team and I was nervous to vlog with them. And that was what kickstarted my love for all of this and my drive to start the vlogs and to start getting into, like really getting into cameras and editing and all of it. And me taking that step outside of my comfort zone into the unknown, it not only took me towards what I love and what I want to do with my future, but it brought me closer with those around me. I was able to make more memories when I started vlogging and I started documenting my experiences, not because it was easier to remember, but because when my creativity was flowing on fun things that I could do with my friends' creativity was growing on fun things that we could do. Like, I have my senior year documented. I have my last summer season documented. I have my freshman year of college not fully documented, but I have a chunk of it. And it's nice to see how me taking that step, and I remember being terrified to post my little like highlights of it on my Instagram story. And I remember being terrified what people would think and what people would say. And it's funny because the second that I stepped into that, I found a lot more support and a lot more connections with the world around me. And I not only became more connected with those around, but I became more connected with myself. Because I've always known that I've been this outgoing, bubbly, never shuts up person. I've always known this is a part of me. But it was always a rather quiet part of me. And it was always something that no one really saw unless they were really close with me. I love this being the main side I show people. And I don't miss my shy side. And it's funny because like I've almost done a 180, because a lot of my friends now, they're like, where's your off button? I don't know, it's I know my middle school self would be immensely proud of myself. And I know there's this one quote that, and I hope I don't butcher it, but it's something along the lines of like your 8-year-old self and your 80-year-old self being proud of you. And I believe that both sides would be really proud of me right now. Not only from me stepping into the unknown and the unexpected with my career and future decisions, and I'm calling YouTube a career. I don't want to have YouTube as my career, but in my creative pursuits, I guess. But also in my relationships with others and the people that I have dedicated my time to, and just the person that I've been becoming. Because like I said, when I came to school, I was expecting for Maria to make all of our friends. I was expecting to take a step back into that little shy freshman year of high school, Kaylin, and I was expecting her to do it all for me. And it's funny because I remember her coming to school and her being like, oh, you're gonna make all our friends for us. And I was like, excuse me? Like, what? Because she ended up coming late. She ended up coming like 3 days after I had moved in. And I remember her telling me that sentence, and I was like, oh my God, like that's a lot, those are some big shoes I have to fill. I became friends with Tyler, and he is just a 10 out of 10 human being. And I'm still saying that as we became friends because he made fun of me over Zoom. But I wasn't expecting a friendship to form over Zoom in the slightest. And I think a lot of people weren't expecting friendships to form over Zoom. And I remember explaining that to a lot of people last year, how one of my best friends I made over Zoom. I remember going home and telling my friends that from high school and being like, yeah, no, like, these are how I made my friends and blah, 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 blah. And people being like, wait a minute, what? Like, you actually talk to people on like your Zoom and you actually like maintain that, because that's not what usually happened. Most of the other people I talked to over Zoom, I didn't say 2 words to. I let the professor talk, and you know what I mean? Like, you had a few familiar faces. You had the kids that regularly participated in class, but you didn't have friendships outside of that. And I remember watching him and how he interacted with those around him and wanting to carry the level of confidence and just excitedness, is that a word? Excitement? To get to know those around him and get to just explore this new world that we were entering. I wanted to be like him, and I basically just decided that that's how I was gonna be. I reinvented myself, and that's the beauty of coming to college, is that you can be whoever you want to be. The idea of you in anyone else's mind is completely not there. Not that it's relevant to begin with, but you have a blank slate. You have infinite opportunities at a new first impression, and you can redefine yourself. So I decided that I wasn't going to be the shy girl that I was. I was going to break out of my shell. The biggest piece of advice that I can give to any college freshman, anyone who's transferring from schools, anyone who's honestly, just entering a new environment in general and looking to make friends. If you're entering an environment that's new for most other people, there is no reason you should be scared to ask people, like, straight up, do you want to be friends? Because that was something that I asked. I asked a lot of people, like, straight up, just like, do you want to be friends? Like, let's be friends. No one else has a solid friend group yet going into college. No one else knows anyone. No one's gonna say no to you because we're all just craving that human connection. We're all just craving knowing people. It was almost diving into this abyss of not knowing who these people were or where my friendship with them was gonna go, that surrounded me with the family that I have here. And it's absolutely like mind-boggling to me because a lot of people here, pretty much everyone here, thinks that I am the way that they know me. And I talked about imposter syndrome a little bit in my last episode, but this version of myself it's just still new to me. Confidence it takes practice. Confidence takes a lot of practice, but you can find it if you practice it. Everyone here thinks that I'm just this hypersocial, talkative human being who loves to get to know people, and I am. But it's a flip-flop of what I guess the past version of myself was, where again, duality is a very important concept, I believe. You can have both, and I believe I do have both. Not that the definition other people have of me defines me, but the weight of the definition that they hold of me differs and compares to the one that I have of myself. And no one's gonna know you better than you are gonna know yourself. And it's not their fault that that's their definition that they have of me. That's the side of me that I decided to show. And I'm happy that I got to and get to explore this side of myself. Because I didn't always have that. I didn't always have a best friend that I could call and whatever. And I did my junior, senior year of high school. But the beginning of high school was really lonely for me. I didn't have someone that I could just call up and be like, hey, what are you doing? I'm bored. Knowing that everyone was coming into this foreign space, I not only wanted to get a friend that I could reach out to whenever, but I wanted to be a friend that people could reach out to whenever. And I've said this about 14 or 15 different times, but me stepping outside of my comfort zone to make these friendships in college when I thought I was gonna kind of be a loner again was the best thing that I've ever done. Because I didn't expect to find as many genuine connections as I have here. I expected to have a few solid connections. I hoped at least to become really good friends with my roommate, who we actually had TikTok beef, and I'll go into that later. But I hoped to be friends with my roommate. And I hoped to make at least 2 or 3 other friends. But I have just family, and like that's, and it sucks that that's like the only word that I can use to explain it, but that's all that I have. And maybe it was naive for me to think that I wasn't going to get this deep of connections here. Maybe it was stupid of me because I'm living with these people, you know what I mean? Like, you would hope that you at least get a few deep connections out of it. But even then, I feel like a lot of the people that I'm closest with interpret their emotions differently and deal with them completely differently than I do. I said this before, but I'm overly emotional. And a lot of my friends don't like to talk about their feelings when they're feeling them. And I need to talk about my feelings when I feel them. But we've still been able to connect on an emotional level and actually form this bond where we're able to support each other despite the fact that we interpret them differently and interpret different aspects of the world differently. And I think being able to accept that people interact with their environments completely differently creates the best friendships ever, because from there you're able to not need to spend 24/7 with the person to hold that friendship. The best friendships are the ones where you can talk and pick it up and then drop it for a little bit and then talk and pick it up like you never dropped it in the first place. And you're not necessarily dropping it, you're just going about your own life and they're going about their own life, and you're just existing and you're still supporting each other, and you still know that you'll be there for the person if they call you or they need you, but you don't need to be there because they're their own independent person and they're doing their own thing, and that's allowing you to do your own thing. You can't change someone else's feelings. You can't take away someone's pain at all. You can't make someone happy. Someone has to make themselves happy. But you can let someone know that you care. You can let someone know that you're supporting them. You can show up. But like I said before, like me and my roommate, like we did not, I didn't know of her existence 3 years ago. And it's funny because the first time that I ever learned of her existence, I had caused TikTok beef with her friends back home. I did not expect to get a best friend out of my living situation. I came in and I expected to coexist in the same room and call it a day. Now, like, I love Maria as my roommate. Like, she is just amazing, and we're completely different people. Though we're completely different, and you would expect, and like this goes back to the main idea of the beauty of the unexpected. You would expect, because we're so different, that our living situation would not work at all in the slightest. But I could not ask for a better roommate. I really could not ask for a better roommate. And she has, like, she's just like the coolest, and not even a roommate, friend. Like, she's just an amazing person all around. I've never met someone who puts other people first more. And I wasn't expecting to get this. I was expecting, because of the past interactions of me causing beef with her friends back home, that we weren't going to be friends. I'm extremely happy and lucky that I was able to get this friendship out of all of this. She's a chemistry major and I'm a communications major. We are on two different sides of the workload spectrum when it comes to college. We don't get an insane amount of opportunities to actually sit down and have like deep conversations and just joke around, because usually like one of us is working and then one of us is napping, or one of us is doing something else, or one of us isn't in the room. Like we're on completely different schedules. But the moments that we get to sit down and just joke around and hang out and catch up with each other are some of my favorite on the entire face of the planet. A big part of our ability to coexist the way that we do is because we're able to communicate. I remember our like very first week of like living together, I remember saying something, or maybe she said it to me, but we like agreed that like, if there's a problem, we're gonna say it. We're not gonna live here, we're not gonna like start hating each other, we're not gonna let all this like beef like fester up. Like that's just a waste of our time and a waste of our energy. Like we're just gonna lay it all out there and talk it out and fix it right then and there, because it's just easier to do that than let anything fester and build up. Communication quite literally solves everything. But it's also the key to finding this substance in your friendships around you. Because if you think about it, like with normal friends, you can let a lot of stuff slide, and you can let a lot of communication and words left unspoken. You don't need to talk about everything, and you might not want to, because you might not want to piss anyone off. But with the beauty of me creating, not even me creating, but me and the people around me creating this sense of family. Like when it comes to family, like we back home, me and my family fight it out. Like you say it, you lay it out on the table, and it's dealt with, and it's done. The beauty of carrying that same principle here is that it works the exact same way. I talked about my best friend Dimitri earlier in this episode, but like I said before, like me and him weren't, he was probably the last person I was expecting to become friends with here. The last one. And he watches all my videos, and I don't know if he's gonna watch these ones because he's gonna be a little bit longer, and I kind of hope he does, solely because I think that this will be funny. But like, I wasn't expecting to get the level of friendship from him that I did. Like now, we carry the rule of we fight it out, and we talk it out, and we argue, and if there's a disagreement, like we don't leave it unspoken. And a problem doesn't need to be solved, but it needs to be addressed. A lot of problems can be solved by actively communicating and participating and listening. And communication plays a bigger role in our lives than I think a lot of people give it credit for. My friendship with him I was not expecting to find, but it was the principles of just showing up. And it was funny because I think it took both of us stepping outside of our comfort zones to actually like get to know someone we weren't fond of, to become literally best friends. I feel like after I started to step into this, you know what, I'm just gonna get to know people, and if they lean back into it and we can become best friends, that's great, and if they don't, that's fine. I started finding myself finding a lot more love and a lot more deeper connections than I had found in a lot of my life. I met all these people last year, yet they know a lot more about me than a lot of my friends back home do. But I would even go to say that at this point, everyone that I'm surrounded with and that I'm happy to be surrounded by, they have more of an influence on me than my parents do. Don't get me wrong, my parents have raised me well, and they have given me an amazing childhood, and I would not trade my childhood for the world. Up until last year, my parents were teaching the lessons. And last year, when they dropped me off on the first day of college, they said, go find the lessons on your own. You know how to learn them. We taught you how to learn them. And it's your turn to go see the world for yourself. It's funny because growing up, my parents and the people that I was just kind of naturally surrounded by were the ones that were teaching the lessons. But coming to college, I've gotten to choose the people who I'm learning the lessons from. I'm learning it from probably the best people I could ever imagine. But I think even especially since COVID hit, the way that people connect with others, I mean, since 2020, the world has just been throwing us curveballs. We have just been thrown into the unexpected. And since COVID hit, the entire definition of what it means to get to know people has changed. I expected after high school to not necessarily lose friendships, but for my connections with others to decrease. And I think COVID only sped that up. COVID really showed how active you need to be in relationships in order to keep them, at least for me. I expected the people that I was closest with in high school to be the ones that I'm still closest with now. And don't get me wrong, my friends throughout high school, I love them with my entire heart, but a lot of them I haven't spoken to in a while. And it's weird because the ones that I have kept up with the most, they kind of were only school friends back in high school. And it kind of just was like, you know what, like, I don't know how, I honestly couldn't tell you how I just kind of became friends with them and kept keeping up with them after COVID. But I'm happy that I did. Like my friend Haley that I mentioned earlier, like me and her, we were close in high school, we were cool. But I don't think our friendship really fully, at least in my eyes, like we, actually, you know what, I'll give Haley a little bit more credit. I failed math my sophomore year, and Haley sat in the library with me as I like had a mental breakdown after every class. Outside of that, like, me and her were cool in high school, we were close, but we didn't really talk outside of it. We weren't really outside of school friends. Just for some reason during the pandemic, we checked in on each other a little bit more, and we kept up with each other. And now I love having the friendship that I do with her now. And I don't know if she's watching this. I don't know if she's listening to this. I hope she is. H Money, what's up if you are? I was expecting my friendship with Haley to end after high school. And I am so grateful that it did not. In the midst of losing my high school experience, I was not expecting to find friendships for a lifetime. Because I found my friendship with Haley. I also found my friendship with one of my best friends, Alex. And it's funny because Alex used to be my middle school bully, and me and him went to elementary and middle school together, and we grew up. After middle school, I was never really expecting to have any form of connection with her, nor did I really want to. Given the fact that he was my middle school bully. We went to different high schools, we both grew up, and I remember forgiving him in my own mind. And I'd always wanted to forgive him in person after I had cooled down and forgiven him on my own terms, whether he remembered it or not. There's this thing called Senior Week, SWEEK, if anyone's hip to it, And basically you go down to the beach after your senior year is over, and you just go celebrate with your friends. A lot of the kids that I went to middle school with happened to be going down the same week that I did. And we all agreed that one night, and it happened to be like the first night of the week, that we were all gonna hang out and see each other. And I remember not knowing how that was gonna go. And I remember being like, yeah, I don't really know, but worst comes to worst, what? It's one night, get over it, okay. And it's funny because we all actually ended up having a really good time, and we spent the rest of the week hanging out, which none of us were expecting. And that was probably, that's probably one of my most favorite memories from my past few summers. And I was not expecting my relationships with the people that I spent senior week with, who I hadn't spoken to in years, to grow the way that they grew. Because there was one night where I remember talking to him, and we sat down, and I was like, listen, like, I don't know if you remember this, but like, I forgive you. And it just so happened that he did remember it all. It was honestly a really beautiful moment. That sounds so like cheesy and like ew, like emotional, but like, it was nice to have that sense of closure and to be able to completely move on and to gain one of my best friends. He called me last weekend, and it was like the most exciting thing ever, because like I was not expecting a call at all, and we were just kind of like, what is up? Like, how are you doing? Like, I haven't spoken to you in forever, but like I know you're doing great at college. Like, I can't wait to see you when I get home. Over the last year of us being friends, both of us have seen each other grow and just become the best versions of ourselves. And because if you were to ask him, out of most of my friends, when I go back to saying that whole shy thing and being quiet and not social and boxing myself up into this little, like, not nerd, but like all I really was like school and my little documentaries, and I hung out in my room, and I only really hung out with myself. Like he can attest to that. I was not the version of myself that I am today growing up. And that's how I know that younger me will be proud of me. And younger me, not even will be, is proud of me. Because I wasn't expecting to find this version of myself. And I wasn't expecting to find the friendships that I have in college. But it's interesting to see the effect that the people that you surround yourself with have on you. I wasn't expecting to be fully following my goals, dreams, passions for the camera. I wasn't expecting a lot of where my life is right now. And it's funny because that idea of not expecting and not knowing paralyzed me a year and a half ago. Completely terrified me. Whereas now, like, I'm making decisions. I talked about this on my first episode. I just decided that I'm going to double major. I have no idea how I'm going to do it. I have no idea how I'm going to get it done. But I know it's going to work out. Whether it works out with me doing a double major or whether it works out with me dropping one of them. Whether I end up dropping something else. The world's going to work out for me. And everything that's going to happen is going to happen the way it should. And that's the beauty of the unknown. I think looking for qualities in people and not people in general. And I've said this probably about 1,000,000 times, and I'm probably going to cut out most of the times that I've said this, but I wasn't expecting to find the solid friendships that I did when I came here. But I did know that when I came here, I was going to actively search out qualities that I wanted to make sure that I was focusing on in myself, in others. Because there's whatever that thing says, of like you become the 5 people that you hang out with the most. I made sure that I was looking for genuine, like, love and caring for one another. I was looking for genuine support systems, and I was looking for authenticity in people, and I was looking for humor. I love to laugh. I'm not funny. I mean, well, I think I'm funny. My friends don't think I'm funny. And I was looking for just genuine memories. Like not even like good ones. Like just like the stupid ones. And I guess the stupid ones are the good ones. Like the ones that you, when you look at someone and you just know you're gonna remember a moment. And you just know that, like, you know what, like, I don't know what we're doing right now, and this is just so weird that we're doing it. Like, I love to go to Fred DC, and I remember every time I go. Because it's just such an odd experience of me and someone going on some walk or adventure to go there and to just go look at a statue. I've looked for that sense of adventure in other people, and I looked for people with big hearts and big goals and dreams and drive. And I think because everyone that I'm surrounded with has all of just those amazing qualities, I just get a sense of gratitude, like a very large sense of gratitude by everyone who I'm surrounded with, and for the people that I care about, because I would not trade any of them for the world. And life can be lonely. College can be lonely. I remember last year my mom had sent me something on the Facebook page, the parents' Facebook page, how there were some students who did not have the blessing of having the connections with others that I did. And their parents had posted on the Facebook page saying, hey, my kid's in this room and they don't have any friends. Whose kids are in a room in the hall who just can go hang out with them and go become their friend. Everything can be lonely if you let it be. Because sometimes it takes you stepping outside of your comfort zone and pretending that you're the kid that made fun of you on Zoom to show you the beauty that can occur in life, and to show you the beauty that can come out of the unexpected. Because I don't know who I would be if I wouldn't have leaned into that fear of not knowing where this whole college experience was going to take me. And I still don't know where it's going to take me. I couldn't tell you. And although I have no idea where it's going to take me, I think it's pretty cool that it can kind of be whatever I want it to be. And even if it's not something that I want it to be right now, it could be something that I want it to be in the future. The unknown is scary, but it's not always bad. And I think that's what scared me of it so much, and the unexpected and all of that, was that I thought that because I didn't know what was going to happen or what was coming for my future, that it had to be negative. And it doesn't. Because I didn't know that I was going to get the friendships that I did here. And I didn't know I was going to get the memories that I did here. And I didn't know that I was not even support. I remember moving in last year and my roommate looked at me and she was like, are we going to start the vlogs? Are we going to renegade? Are we going to, if you stalk my TikTok, I renegade all the time. It's my favorite thing ever. I don't do it as much, but I did it all, like when that renegade was like hot, I was all the time. I renegaded like every day of my senior year. I remember her saying that to me and me being scared to do it because I was scared I was going to be made fun of. And I was scared it was going to be this thing that made me lonely. And it didn't give me the opportunity to connect with people and make more friendships and relationships. But the funny thing is that this hasn't only been the key to connecting with other people, but also me finding who I am and figuring out what I'm passionate about and what I want in life. And me sitting down and psychoanalyzing myself. I don't know. And maybe I made people feel less alone. Maybe I've been saying what someone else has been thinking, what they didn't know if they felt it. I don't know. The world is big. The world is wide. And you don't know what's going to come next. But I can promise you that whatever you look for, you will find. And I've chosen to look for positives and for love and for just good people surrounding me and for inspiration and for positivity. And I can promise you that even when you can't see those things, if you look a little deeper, you'll find it. So that's that. That's the beauty of the unexpected. Is that you can quite literally find whatever you're looking for in it if you choose to look for it in the first place. That was pretty fire. Oh my gosh, I'm really proud of myself on that one. Should we like put that on a t-shirt? I don't know. So yeah, that was Tripp's take. Thank you. Goodbye.